Hello, Believe chapter heads. We are so excited for you to be here and get started on your chapter head journey. This is going to be your training to give you every resource, every bit of information you need to create a successful chapter. There's going to be a lot of information thrown at you, but we are going to do everything that we can to make sure it is as easy as possible to digest. And we'll be talking about a lot of resources. But don't be alarmed, you don't have them yet. You'll have to complete your training before we then kind of share everything with you. And so even if we talk about different folders or files you'll get those once you complete your training. So don't be worried about that. We are so excited that you are here. We have such an incredible journey for you to be on. My name is Sarah Wells. I am the founder of the Believe Initiative, and I am a Canadian Olympic 400-meter hurdler. And I founded this program because I found out through my sporting career that you really didn't build self-belief through achievements. You built self-belief through action. And that's what the Believe Initiative does. It helps students build self-belief through action. We want to create more resilient leaders through project-based learning. And that's what the Believe Leadership course is going to do for both you and your members. So we've been fortunate to do this with schools all across North America. We've impacted hundreds of thousands of students with our programming, and with the Believe Leadership course specifically, we've impacted 900 students that have created 550 Believe passion projects, and those passion projects have made an impact on over 45,000 people. Are you kidding? And you're about to be a part of that. We cannot wait for you to be involved. It is such an amazing journey. Like I said, I've been able to meet incredible students through the journey. And two of those students that I've been so lucky to meet are your two student directors, Katie and DePauli, who I want to welcome to the stage. They are absolutely amazing. Welcome, Katie and DePauli.
Hey, my name's DePauli.
And I'm Katie.
And we're your two BLC student directors. We are so excited to be here and lead you through this journey. We started getting involved with the Believe Initiative since 2018. We helped launch the first two BLC chapters and the fall 2021 cohort, and now look where we are today with you. We've worked super hard on this training and worked super hard on making the course the best it can be with Sarah and with everyone else, and we're so excited to lead you through it.
Absolutely. And we just want to say before we start into this entire journey that this really is a journey. And we've seen so many chapter heads come out of the other side as stronger, as better people, as better leaders. And we really want you and encourage you to take the most that you can out of this course. That being said, we are here to support you every single step of the way. Again, you'll hear this so many times throughout this training. You can contact us by email, by Slack, which you will have later on. All of these things, we just want you to know that we got your back. Whatever you need, let us know. We are always open here to answer all of your questions. Sarah, I think you're on mute.
Oh, good. Classic. Guys, we got to show how this is going to work. In case you run your chapter virtually, these are the kind of things that will happen. So you guys are so lucky to have Katie and DePauli as your student directors. They are absolutely superheroes, like my goodness. And to give you kind of a bit of a snapshot of how this training is going to work, we are going through right here, right now, this manual is going to be called the Introduction to the Believe Leadership course. And you will have 5 videos to watch that have 5 accompanying manuals. 1 video for 1 manual. So any of the information you hear in the videos, if you need to go back and check it, there's always an accompanying manual that you can go back, read the text, and get a deeper understanding into anything we talk about here today. So you met Katie and DePauli, and the way that these manuals are going to go is first we have this manual, Introduction to the Believe Leadership course. Then we're going to get into the second manual in a separate video that will talk about setting up and teaching your chapter. Like, how do you get started? Who do you talk to? Where do you go? What resources do you need? So we'll make sure we talk about that. Then, how do we guide students through their passion projects? How are you going to be leading these sessions? What are the topics? What are you going to be teaching? And we'll walk you through all of that. Then the fourth manual is going to be all about promoting your chapter. How are we going to tell people this exists? How are you going to find members? How are you going to recruit them? How do you use social media? What graphics can you use? And we'll walk through all of that. And then finally, the 5th manual is going to walk through organizing your inspiration fair, which is basically like the exclamation point on this whole process. And we'll tell you more about that in a bit. And we'll, of course, make sure you have everything you need to wrap up, feel like you've done a great job, and get all of your members to that finish line. So that's how we're going to go through this. let's dive into the introduction of the Believe Leadership course, starting with a bit of the terminology we use, so that way we're all on the same page. So, Katie.
For sure, right. So there is quite a bit of terminology attached to the BLC, which I will explain right here. The first one that we have here is chapter heads, which is all of you lovely people. CH, chapter head, pretty intuitive. BLC is the other one that you will be seeing quite a lot. Believe Leadership course, also referred to as the course. We also have admin, which is the Believe Initiative team, which includes Sarah, myself, and Dipali. We are the people that you will be contacting if you ever need help with anything. So we are the BLC, or Believe Leadership, Believe Initiative admin. We also have alumni, which are used in reference to past BLC participants of past cohorts and chapters. These are the alumni that we host workshops for that are part of the alumni community. So you'll hear that term a couple of times as well. We also have chapter members, which are the students and participants that you as chapter heads will teach in your chapter. So these are the people who are attending your sessions, your meetings, your lessons, and these are the people that you'll be guiding throughout this entire process. We also have the Inspiration Fair, which is a display and celebration of passion projects created by chapter members, which we'll talk about later on in the training, and passion projects, which is a project students create in the BLC that combines a passion students have with a problem students want to solve to use that passion to solve their problem.
Yes, absolutely. So those are the words we'll be using. And of course, you can check in with us if anything doesn't make sense. The Believe Initiative has, like I said, impacted over 120,000 students. And what you're about to embark on kind of has two finish lines. And so if we think about what is the main objective of what you're about to start with the Believe Leadership course, the main objective kind of has two components. And I'm going to flip over to my iPad to show you this quickly. The first component is actually an individual finish line. So every single chapter member, they want to get to their finish line. How do I draw this? Their finish line, which is completing their passion project. So we want them to complete their passion project, make an impact in their community. We're going to describe more of that in a moment. But that chapter member has a finish line. I don't know how to make this like an official finish line here. And that chapter member wants to complete their passion project to make sure they've done their task of being a part of the program. To show that to the Believe admin, they're going to be submitting a kind of media submission of some sort, showcasing what they did, the impact it had. And so that is their finish line. As a chapter member, they're trying to complete their project and submit a media submission of here's what I did and here's the impact it made. So as a member, that's their finish line. Now, the other objective, as a chapter, your finish line as a chapter altogether is that you must host your, and I'll give this a different color, your Inspiration Fair. Now, your Inspiration Fair is basically like a science fair of inspirational projects. It's going to showcase all the students, the passion projects they had, the impacts that it made. And so the finish line for the chapter member is complete the project, submit a media submission, which we'll tell you where they can do that in a bit. But your chapter finish line, the thing to know, okay, I completed my duties as a chapter, is that you want to host your Inspiration Fair. And so that is kind of our main objective here, that we want to make sure students are developing their leadership skills and creating change in their communities by completing those passion projects. That's the main objective for the members. And then the main objective as the chapter is that you complete that chapter experience through an Inspiration Fair. And so if you have any questions about that, don't worry, we are still going to dive into more of those details. And Dipali's going to tell us a bit more about how we're going to get to those finish lines. Now, before we jump into Dipali's thing, we actually want to talk about what is a passion project. And basically the formula is passion plus problem equals passion project. So you can, for example, be passionate about robotics. And you may love robots and you want to watch YouTube about robots and you read about robots. And the problem maybe you want to solve is mental health and you want to help people deal with depression and anxiety. And so you would use your passion for robotics to connect to that problem of trying to solve mental health. And ultimately, whatever way you choose to connect those two things becomes your passion project. Now, those two examples I just gave you is a real one that someone did in the BLC over the past few years. And so that's a passion project. One thing to note here is sometimes people will say, well, I'm passionate about mental health and I'd like to solve mental health. Now, yes, I have no doubt people are passionate about mental health and it's the problem they want to solve. but we want people's passion to be kind of like that thing that's uniquely theirs, that hobby, that interest, that thing that they're so enthusiastic about, and using that to solve the issue, or whether it's local or global issue. And so thinking about it like that, helping your chapter members understand that, yes, they may be passionate about mental health, but their passion and problem shouldn't be the same thing. We want to use something uniquely ours, something kind of different, and connect it to that problem. And that's how we'll break down the passion projects. So, Dipali, tell us how we are going to get there.
Yeah, for sure. So you might be wondering, wow, passion project, chapter fair, leadership. What actually am I teaching, and how is this all being organized? Well, here we have a lovely 10-step program diagram, which you can refer to whenever you're confused, whenever you have questions and things like that. And it walks us through exactly what the course is all about. So the course is around 6 main lessons with content that talk about things like leadership, obviously, but also resilience, discipline, confidence, and so much more. All these skills that students will need to become a leader, because having leadership skills and being a leader isn't just about learning how to boss someone around, but also about these foundational skills as well. But in addition to that, we have other things, such as other things that Katie and Sarah have already talked about, such as chapter fairs and collective fairs, as well as time beforehand, time that is necessary for you to launch your chapter and promote your chapter. As you can see, the first thing on here is the info session, step 1, where you'll kind of pitch the idea of your BLC chapters to your students in an effort to try to get members. As well, we have time for you as a chapter head to work through your training, which you're doing right now. So just when you're looking at this 10-step program and what the course it actually is, just remember to factor in time that it takes to promote your chapter, and to factor in time that it takes to learn about the course and complete your training, because that is really important. In your manual, you'll find a date that says when you should have your first session by, just so you make sure that you're on track to complete your chapter inspiration fair. So make sure to be in consistent timeline with that date. As well, remember, if you need any help, your student directors and Sarah, we all are here to help you. So just as a quick reminder, remember to look at this diagram that shows you what exactly the course is and what exactly you're teaching students, and also budget time for promotion.
Perfect. Okay, so the next step that we have here is about our key deliverables. And key deliverables applies not only to chapter heads, but also to chapter members. Deliverables essentially are what you need to get accomplished in order to receive your certificate of completion, your volunteer hours, which are the rewards that you get at the very end of the program, right? So the first thing that you have as chapter heads on your deliverables list are chapter head check-ins. And now chapter head check-ins are different from the chapter member surveys. Those are completely different sets. Chapter heads do the chapter head check-in forms. Chapter members do the chapter member survey forms. So those are 2 separate sets of things. Please do not confuse those. Okay, so let's get started on the 3 required chapter check-ins. There are 3 of them, obviously. The first one is a pre-course check-in. This one will be due before your first meeting, and it will help us kind of keep track of all the details on how your promotion is going, what sorts of things are you doing to set up your chapter, are there any questions you have, any sorts of things like that. Number 2 is your mid-course check-in, which is due after session 4 or session 5. And again, this will kind of like help us to prepare you for the inspiration fair and to make sure that you are on track to host your own inspiration fair. The third one and the final required check-in form for chapter heads is the post-course check-in form, which is due after your chapter inspiration fair and gives us feedback on what you thought of the course. These check-ins help us to keep track of your progress and to see where we can better support you. So like I've mentioned before, each one of the check-in forms will have a section where you can list any questions you have. So you can always put your check-in questions on the check-in forms. Besides the check-in forms, if you have any questions in between, you can always either email us at believeleadership@gmail.com or message us on Slack, which you will have access to later after you complete the training. Right. So besides that, if you have more than one chapter head, only one form needs to be submitted per your chapter. So at each check-in point for each check-in form, you can only submit one. So that's the easiest way for everyone to keep track of things. So you should be working together to submit one version of the check-in form. And for forms that ask for your feedback, please make sure to have every single chapter head on your team to contribute to that piece of feedback. So for example, in the post-course check-in, when we ask for your feedback about the course, have every single chapter head put in a sentence or put in a little piece of a contribution into that feedback so we can have a more wholesome view of what everyone thinks. Oh, Sarah.
I'm doing that muting thing again. Dang. Thank you, Katie. That's absolutely right. Those check-in forms are for you, chapter heads, and they'll be integral to making sure you get the support you need and ensuring that you guys are on the right track. In one of the check-in forms, the pre-check-in form, we'll be asking you to submit your media release form. Now, this is an important step that only chapter heads, it's mandatory for. Because you guys are going to be on camera teaching the lessons, filming them maybe, recording them so that you can submit them to chapter members who missed the session. And so we need to make sure that you are approved to be on camera, to record those sessions. And so you'll have to submit that chapter head media release form. It is mandatory for you, and there'll be a place for you to upload it in your check-in forms. So look for that. Your deliverables as a chapter head, you are the blood of this chapter. You are the driving force. You are the reason everyone is going to get to that finish line, their successful exclamation point of completing their projects and getting to the chapter inspiration fair. And so, it is a big responsibility and it is some work, but we promise it is absolutely worth it and so, so rewarding. So you'll be responsible to set up your Believe chapter, to run the info session, the session that's going to say, hey, everyone who wants to come, check out this opportunity I have for you, where you can get volunteer hours, where you can build a cool impact project, where you can do all this fun stuff. Come check it out. So that info session is going to be a big part of your role because that's how you're going to find members. Then once you have your chapter kind of set in stone, you know who's going to be participating, you'll have to teach those 7 program lessons. If I just flip back here real quick for you to look at this, right? So it's the info session, step 1. Then there's kind of 7 lessons: innovation, collaboration, confidence, discipline, resilience, leadership. And the work week we kind of consider a lesson because you let everyone work on their projects and you help facilitate. So that's info session plus 7 lessons gets you to 8 weeks. And then you're into the chapter fair and collective fair time period. So you've set up your chapter, you're going to run that info session, you're going to teach the 7 BLC program lessons, which will make sure you have everything you need. And you're going to help guide your chapter members to completing those passion projects. So, that's running your chapter. Those are your responsibilities in running it. Along the way, you're responsible to hand in those 3 check-in forms and submit that media release. And then you're also responsible for hosting that chapter inspiration fair, which is an inspiration fair for just your chapter. And it is requested, it is kind of mandatory for you to tell us, the BLC admin, when your chapter inspiration fair is, and we'll get into the details of that later, but we will intend to try to come to as many of them as possible. And so you're responsible to host that fair, tell us about it, and then ultimately the collective fair, step 10, is where we will have 1 chapter representative from every single chapter come all together to do another inspiration fair of kind of all of the project finalists. So you will be responsible to tell us who is your chapter representative. All of these details, everything that you need, every step-by-step nitty-gritty term, what do you need to be doing and when, is in a chapter head master checklist that we'll be emailing to you as soon as you complete this training. And it has literally every step. You can't get lost. It is so well laid out. And so, again, just refer back to that chapter head master checklist every chance you get because you won't miss any of these responsibilities and deliverables when you check that. Chapter members also have some key deliverables and responsibilities because, as we talked about, they have their own finish line, right? They have to complete their passion project and make it to the inspiration fair to be able to showcase what they did. Along the way, they'll have 2 surveys to complete. They need to tell us, and it'll help you support them as well, I think, because they'll have refined their idea in order to submit these surveys of what their passion project is and how they're going to go about executing it. Those will be in a folder for you to be able to share with your chapter members. They must complete those 2 surveys as part of their responsibilities of being in the course. Then the second thing they have to do is there are 2 assignments that they need to hand in as part of the program, and the assignments will be listed in your masterhead checklist of when to tell them about the assignments, and everything you need for the assignments and what you need to give them as resources will also be given to you. And then last up, they'll have to present their project at the chapter inspiration fair. We want everyone to showcase what they did and the impact it had. So then that way we get to see, all the hard work they put in, and it'll allow everyone to have a fair chance to become that chapter representative to go on to the collective fair. We'll make sure there's a member's kind of reference workbook so that they can know that they're on track and follow along as well. Much like you as a chapter head have the master checklist, we'll kind of have that member's reference workbook as well. So those are those key deliverables. we'll be constantly supporting you through these along the way. So don't be alarmed or overwhelmed yet. These are just kind of everything up front.
So one of the great perks to being a chapter head and a chapter member is that you get volunteer hours. Now, obviously, that's not hopefully the reason why you're just leading this course. You get so much more out of it, such as, leading a chapter, impacting students, impacting your community, developing your leadership skills, all that fun stuff. But volunteer hours are still something nice to have. So as a chapter head and as a member, both of those roles merit some volunteer hours, which is great because you're making an impact on your community. So you may be wondering, what can I receive volunteer hours for? Well, a few things. You can receive it for training, so the time you spend watching these videos and reading the manuals. You can receive it for completing check-in forms, setting up your chapter, which includes things like promotion and recruiting members, for running sessions, which will probably be some of the bulk of your volunteer hours, any calls made with the BLC admin, planning and hosting your chapter inspiration fair, attending the optional Believe leadership workshops, which you'll see on our Instagram in the future, and attending the collective inspiration fair. So essentially anything that has to do with the BLC and you working on the BLC or you participating in the BLC, you can get hours for, which is really, really great. Now moving on to members. So your members can also get hours, which is great. What can they get hours for? Similar things to you. Anything that they are doing that is involved with the BLC, they can get hours for. So these include things like attending sessions live. This is an important distinction to make because some of you maybe record your lessons, and we just want to make sure that people aren't getting, 1 hour for just flipping through slides if they missed a meeting, and that only takes them 5 minutes, right? So attending sessions live, they can get hours for. They can also get hours for attending the optional Believe leadership workshops, which are super fun. Working on their passion project. A lot of students, from what Katie and I have seen, this is where they get the bulk of their hours from as well, because the more time they put in their passion project, the better it gets and the more hours they get as well. And then also attending the chapter and collective inspiration fairs. One thing to note as well, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, is that if members do not complete one of their key deliverables, so this includes something like a passion project assignment or survey, they will not be able to receive hours. And this is because we want to make sure it's fair for everyone. We don't want someone who just randomly kind of attended sessions to get hours but didn't, complete a passion project. We want to even out the playing field and make sure that these hours are going towards students actually creating impact on their communities.
Yes, thank you so much to Polly. That's all great information on exactly what we can be receiving volunteer hours for. And of course, once you've collected those hours and you've done all that work, whether as a chapter head or a chapter member, you're going to want to hand them in and get them signed off on, of course, right? And so there are 2 avenues for submitting volunteer hours, and it will depend on whether you are a chapter head or a chapter member. If you are a chapter head, you will be submitting your volunteer hours to the Believe leadership admin. And so in your post-course survey, post-course check-in, your third check-in form, you will have a section that says, please upload your volunteer tracker here. You're going to be provided that tracker, so you'll be able to track your volunteer hours as you go. So you'll upload that volunteer hour tracker. We'll kind of validate the hours, and you'll have listed out kind of what you did and all the things DePauli just listed through of like how and what did you spend your time. And then if there's any specific forms that your board requires, then make sure you upload there as well so we can sign off on those. So if you're a chapter head, you are going to be submitting it to us for those volunteer hour validations. And of course, if there's any other questions, you can email to believeleadership@gmail.com, and then they'll try to help you through this process. If you are a chapter member, it's different. Chapter members do not submit their hours to the Believe leadership. They also don't submit their hours to you. While you've been there through the process for them, it is also important that we don't create any type of potential favoritism that could take place where it's friends signing off on friends' hours and peers signing off on peers' hours. And so we need those hours of chapter members to be signed off on by your teacher supervisor. Now, the teacher supervisor is required and is like the thing that we strongly, strongly encourage helps you oversee this chapter, and we'll get more into that in the next manual. But your chapter members are going to submit their volunteer hours to your teacher supervisor. And of course, if we'll tell you more about this in a moment, but if you don't have a teacher supervisor, then you may choose to submit those things onto whether it's your principal or your vice principal. And so we'll get more into those details in the final manual. We talk about wrapping up your chapter, but all you need to know for right now is chapter heads, you submit to the Believe Leadership admin. Chapter members, you're going to be submitting to your teacher supervisor of the whole chapter. That's it for now for volunteer hours. Don't worry, we are going to come back to this in the final manual of wrapping it all up. But we've just thrown a lot at you, a lot of stuff. And we just wanted to, before we end here, give you a bit of a taste of all of the resources you'll be provided to do all the things that we just talked about. So Katie, why don't you walk us through how many resources we really have access to?
Sarah says a taste of the resources, but there is a full buffet here. So going through this entire buffet here, just really, really quickly, we have training videos and manuals. Again, you guys already have access to that. The chapter head master checklist. It's a mouthful. That is the checklist that you'll have access to with the rest of the training folder. With the rest of the resource folder after you complete the training and let us know. There are the 6 session slides, which also includes worksheets, notes, and mini prep videos, which will help you to prepare before a session. So you can just watch that 5-minute prep video to prepare you for your session ahead of time. There is a member attendance tracker, so that's something that you can use to keep track of who attends which meetings, so that you can make sure and kind of cross-reference that when you're giving out your volunteer hours and when you're approving those volunteer hours with your teacher supervisor later on. There is also a chapter head volunteer hour tracker, which you will use as a chapter head to make sure that you can keep track of all of your hours so that you are able to keep a detailed log and help us to kind of approve those hours for you accordingly. There is also a Canva graphics resources folder where we have a bunch of templates and idea posts, so posts that can kind of get you started on what you might want to use in your promotion. We have a promotional and social media templates, which is in the Canva graphics resource folder. There is a sign up form template, so that template is just for anyone who is signing up for the club. You might want to create a Google form or something like that. We have a template for that. There's an info session slide template so that you don't have to create slides from scratch. There is an inspiration fair slide template, a passion project list tracker so you can keep track of all of the passion projects in your chapter. There is a media release form, which again is going to be attached to one of the check-in forms. And then there will be the Slack channel where you can directly message us to ask any questions, where you can get access to the entire chapter head community. They're lovely, lovely people. You will also have access to that once you complete the training. And I believe there's a second slide that we can go over for chapter member resources, which includes the 6 session slides, worksheets, and notes, which they will have access to review after the sessions if they ever want to come back to something. There is a member volunteer hour tracker, which is a different one from the chapter head tracker. So this is the one that they can use to track all of the lessons they attend, all of the workshops they attend, how many hours they spend on their passion project, that sort of thing. They have their 2 assignments. Assignment 1 is their project outline. Assignment 2 is their media submission, and then Inspiration Fair presentation tips. The Inspiration Fair presentation tips essentially just helps them to kind of get used to a presentation style and kind of what their presentation might look like during the Inspiration Fair. There is then an end of course logistics document where it goes over all the things they need to know for wrapping up the chapter and kind of like making sure that they're all ready to go and they have everything wrapped up. There is also expanding passion projects, which teaches them how to expand their passion projects past the Believe Leadership course and to continue their legacy. There's a chapter member FAQ for anything that they aren't sure about or they have questions about. And there is the media release form for them as well, just in case you are recording your sessions.
You're right, Katie. That was a lot. It was not just a taste. It is actually all the things. And one thing I actually want to touch upon quickly that was in the chapter head resources just back here is the Slack channel, the very last thing listed here. The Slack channel is basically, if you've never used Slack, it's a software. It's like Discord. It's different threads and you have different channels. And on the Slack channel, you'll be invited to it and we'll be giving you a resource on how to navigate and how you use Slack. But this will be your hub where we upload kind of any announcements, any resources. We're going to go into more of the details about Slack in a separate complete video. That's an extra resource entirely about Slack. But just wanted you to know that that is going to be our hub. And if you don't know what Slack is, it's like Discord. It's just a different server that's more private than Discord. So these are all going to be handed, all of these resources we just talked about, after you complete your training. This is where you will get all of those things we just talked about. Last but not least, I just wanted to touch upon quickly about the fact that, again, there's a lot of information. There's lots that we're doing. But sometimes you'll have questions and you'll feel like, where's that thing? And you might forget the information that we just told you all about in these manuals that we're going to go through over the next 5 videos. be resourceful as a chapter head. Go back and look in your manuals when you run into a hiccup or like a hurdle and you're like, oh gosh, where do I need to go? What do I need again? Go check your manuals first before you kind of ask us of like, hey, what do I do here? It's like, it's probably in the manual because we really tried our hardest to make sure everything is in the manuals. Now, of course, we don't want to say never ask us. We absolutely want questions and we are here to support you. But be resourceful. Go check the Drive folders. Use the search function to try to find whether if you're looking for chapter Inspiration Fair logistics and how-tos, look for chapter Inspiration Fair and see what comes up first. And then if you can't find it in the Drive folder, if you don't find it in the manual, then come to us as the BLC admin and say, hey, I don't know what to do next. And we are here for you. Beyond, after going and searching all those things, if you do need that extra help and beyond just writing to us in the Slack channel or writing us an email, there will also be an opportunity for you to book time with your student directors to get on a call. And how you do that will also be shared with you. And you're going to use something called Calendly to book into their calendars. But you can contact them and any of us through these resources. Oh man, this is where it does the thing where I can't get all three of us. That's okay. But here is the contact information will be at the end of every single manual and at the end of every single video. And so you can feel free to reach out to us on any of those things as well. Now, Katie DePauli and I have been practicing this for months, and we are just, oh no, I got to make sure I put Katie in the right spot or she's going to hurt me. Oh no, I got to do this again. I got to minus myself. That's what I need to do. Because we have been doing a group high five virtually on this platform, and you guys are here to witness our first ever virtual high five. And we are ready for wrapping up this final video. We're going to do like a break, team. And ready? We're going to high five. 3, 2, 1. Woo! Yes!
Oh my
Congratulations, chapter heads. You have completed your very first manual, and there is so much more to learn, but we hope that this has been a very successful ground-laying session, and more to come, right?
See you in the next manual.
See you in the next video.